Welcome to a special edition of the Backlot 605 podcast. I am Casey, and here with me today is a very special guest, South Dakota native and filmmaker, writer-director, Andrew Kightlinger. Andrew, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Now, there is a reason I brought you on today. That is to talk about your latest film, Tater Tot and Patton. Now, that's going to be screening here in South Dakota in the next few weeks. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're going to be doing a road show, as I like to call it, where we're going to be traveling across the state, putting on about 1,800 miles in about 10 days. And we're going to be starting in Pierre. Well, we're going to be starting in a bunch of cities on March 8th, and the movie will be playing for a solid week. And in that week, I'm going to be doing Q&As at multiple venues across the state, talking about the film and hyping it up.
For those people who may not know about this film, could you tell us kind of what it's about and what's so specific about South Dakota for it?
Well, it's kind of a tried and true tale. I like to joke that it's basically a Beauty and the Beast or Shrek movie, but with real people. But it's about a city girl who escapes to her uncle's ranch, and he's this ogre-like character. He escapes to her ranch in central South Dakota and unravels his loner booze hound life. So the movie is ultimately about, and she's got her own issues too. She's a wayward millennial, as all millennials are. So it's a movie about two people that are both broken that find solace in each other in the most unexpected of ways. And the movie is a love letter to South Dakota. I grew up in Pierre, went to college in Sioux Falls. South Dakota is home to me. At the same time, I also grew up overseas. So South Dakota is also, in a way, I'm also an outsider. So the movie presents an insider's and outsider's perspective. And yeah, and every facet of my upbringing is poured into it. The horizon, the landscape, all that is tied into the themes of the film, the themes of loss and regret and ultimately healing.
So as you said, you grew up in South Dakota. So what kind of makes South Dakota almost just a perfect setting for this type of film?
I think the landscape plays into that a lot. What I love about South Dakota, I always tell people the Badlands is my creative mecca, and Black Hills too. But what I love about standing in the prairie, and just in the middle of nowhere, for lack of a better word to say, is that horizon makes you feel so small, and it reminds you that we're just human beings on this planet that owns us in a way. As much as we think we own it, it owns us. And so that can make, it sort of brings everything into perspective. And I think that ties into the themes of the film of loss and lack of hope. At the same time, that horizon always presents something better beyond it. So there's an element of hopefulness and healing beyond it. So the horizon is a tandem metaphor in a way, and that's why that's why South Dakota is so important. It was so important to make it here. And again, like what I love most about South Dakota is that it really is one of the last. I feel like just one of the most real places in America. And that's something that I just really wanted to reflect in this movie. I wanted people to go into the theater and sit down and get the feeling that I feel when I step out onto the prairie. That feeling of both introspectiveness and also just longing for hope. It's a weird dichotomy. It's sort of weird, but that's something I just wanted to bring out in the film.
I like something that you said. It's kind of, for me, I feel South Dakota is almost like this untapped potential as far as film-wise go. There's not a whole lot of movies either set or shot in South Dakota. So why was it so important to shoot this film on location in South Dakota?
A lot of people ask me, why didn't you shoot in Montana or shoot in Colorado or, upstate New York or something? And sure, the story could be told a million different ways, but what makes it unique is the fact that it is shot with the flavor of the people here. I think people in South Dakota have their own unique flavor. And I think that we shot with a lot of extras in this state and a lot of bit parts were played with South Dakota people. I think that just lends itself to the humanity of the project and gives it a certain level of realness. And honestly, I don't know, for me, the landscape is just so unique here. South Dakota, when you drive down I-90, one of my greatest pleasures is looking out at the prairie and seeing a lonely tree. You know how there's always single trees in the middle of a prairie, and they're usually somehow they're either by a stock dam, but somehow they've survived you know, years and years of weathering and are still there, and they've even been struck by lightning yet they're still standing. And that's something that, I don't know, that I feel like is unique to our state, and that's something that plays heavily into the film. So for me, I don't know, art is very personal, and audiences can feel that on a subconscious level. So to shoot the film in a state that I love was paramount. Like, it had to happen. Otherwise, you know, I'm not being disingenuous as an artist. And I think the audience can feel that subconsciously as they watch a film.
Couple more questions about you personally. Like, how did you get into filmmaking? You know, what inspired you to become a filmmaker?
I've wanted to make movies since I was 5 years old. I don't know how better else to say that. A lot of people live their lives not knowing what they want to do or moving between different things. I've always wanted to do this. And I can't even explain it. I grew up in Madagascar, so my parents were missionaries, and I grew up sort of in the rainforest a lot, and we didn't have access to much media. So when I saw my first movie, which was E.T., is the first movie I remember watching, there's something about the power of that movie, of Spielberg's direction. I'm a huge Spielberg guy. There's something about the power of the storytelling. I told myself, I want to do that. Whatever that is, whatever that emotion that I'm feeling as a child that I can't parse out fully because I'm 5 years old, but whatever that is, I want to harness that and do that to people and give people that experience. So I always wanted to do it. And at one point I wanted to be an actor. I kind of came of age when Jim Carrey was a lightning bolt, you know, and first big in his career. And at one point I wanted to be Jim Carrey, and I would lock myself in my room and act out sequels to The Mask. You know, my parents probably thought, oh God, I hope he's not schizophrenic. You know, but like, it was just a thing that I did. And then eventually I realized in college when I went to Augie, and I did a lot of high school theater, you know, in comedy, I love big, broad theater, but and when I went to Augie, I realized I didn't like being in front of the camera. It's very vulnerable. I'd rather direct actors. And I've just always been into the storytelling aspect. My parents encouraged me by buying me a camera. I was making short films in high school. I made a documentary about my cross-country team. You know, like, I was just always, I don't know what else I do. Like, I do not know what else I do. And it's every project I do is therapy for me. So I have to do it in order to stay sane. I don't know what else I do, honestly. I've always wanted to do it.
You had mentioned Spielberg is one of your idols and people that you look up to. Who are some other filmmakers or certain films that you kind of looked up to help basically form you into the director that you are today?
That's a great question. Well, number one, the reason I love Steven Spielberg, and I think the reason a lot of people like to crap on him now, but I think he's a genius, is that he's the perfect marriage of pop sensibility and raw emotion. He just gets it. He knows he's a showman, but he does it with truth always. And I think that's the more. And film is for audiences. Who am I making my movie for? Not myself. I mean, I'm making it myself for some point. But once you put it out on the screens, it's no longer your movie. It's everybody else's, and they get to decide. So Spielberg, that's why I love him. My favorite movie of all time is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. That's another movie that I think just balances entertainment and raw human emotion in such a genuine way, and mines comedy out of something so dark. And Walkabout, which is a 1974 or 71 maybe Australian film, masterclass in editing, big for me. I'm a big Kubrick fan. I would never make movies like him, but I appreciate his coldness in a weird way. I'm a huge science fiction guy. The Alien series is something that's defined me. I own countless Alien books, about like H.R. Geiger and whatnot. I'm a huge sci-fi nerd, so how about that? So those movies have also been very influential. I don't know, I like a lot of things, and I was actually having a conversation with somebody yesterday. They said, well, what kind of movies do you want to make? I'm like, honestly, I want to make everything. I'm not interested in genre per se. I'm more interested in theme. What is the movie about, and what is it trying to say? And it doesn't matter if it's a science fiction piece or a horror film or a comedy or a rom-com or a drama. What is the theme about? What are we aiming for? And that's sort of interests me. But I would say my biggest influences are Spielberg and, oddly enough, Jean-Pierre Jeunet, who's a really famous French filmmaker who did an Alien film, oddly enough, but also did a movie called Delicatessen, and City of Lost Children, and also probably most famously Amélie. And his filmmaking style is one that I know that I've always been in love with in a certain way. But again, not like I make movies that like him. It's just, yeah, I have a lot of varying tastes, but for me, I'm always focused on theme and character. Like, what is the movie about? And that kind of informs stylistically what I do.
What advice would you give to up and coming filmmakers? You know, we live, for most of our listeners, they live in South Dakota, and that's where you are from. So what advice would you give to these people who, South Dakota is not known for its film, so what advice would you give to these young up and coming filmmakers from this area?
It's, I hate to say that it's sort of, okay, no, I'll give, because the cliched answer is pick up a camera and shoot. You can, Steven Soderbergh is making movies in the iPhone now. Like, he has a movie on Netflix. You know, this guy's directed the Oceans movies. Like, this guy's making movies on an iPhone. You have an iPhone, go make movies. You can make movies. And a sound recorder, you can buy a sound recorder for $300 now. A really good one. Get a Zoom, go out there and start making films and start cutting it together. I watch movies. Watch all the movies. Don't just watch movies made after 2000s. It's something I've encountered. A lot of people don't want to watch old movies. Watch all the old movies. Go back to the 20s. Go back to the 40s. Watch Casablanca. Watch how the masters did things, you know. But above all, make movies, and also learn how to talk to people. Because you're going to find yourself in this day and age where film is being democratized because of the iPhone and the internet. You're going to have to be able to find your money online, and also just from personal connections. And one thing that I did not know this when I was in high school, but by being a nice person and believing in my art and just being nice to people in my community, I was able to raise money, right? And they're not raising it, I'm not a huckster, you know, I'm not going around like a car, you know, I'm not a car salesman, like, hey, give me money, you know. I'm just, like, they see the raw emotion, say, oh, this person believes in the project, and people are investing in my art. So if you're going to be going to film, it's not just about the movies, it's not just about the art. A lot of it is business, and a lot of it is people skills, especially if you want to be a director. So just remember that as well. Like, go to community events, go to things, meet people. You know, that's always important. But in the end, watch movies. And again, you have an iPhone in your hand, make movies.
Then I have one final question, at least just for myself personally, almost on this one. So a few years ago, you made a film called Dust of War, and you got to work with industry legends Tony Todd and Doug Jones. So what was it like working with those two?
They were delightful. It's funny, you know, you sort of, you hold these people. I'm a huge Candyman fan, and huge like Hellboy and Pan's Labyrinth fan. So and Hocus Pocus fan. So like working with Doug and Tony was a dream. But you know, they're just people. Doug is a tried and true artist, the kindest human being you'll ever meet. He's an amazing actor. So he always gets stuck doing makeup jobs, and he's still to this day, like, I mean, he's huge now. You know, Doug's got the lead of a Star Trek show, but he's still behind makeup. But he's just an amazing actor, and he's so kinesthetic, and so he loves touching people, but not in a weird way. He loves being near people, and he's always touching you. When we would shoot, like, I would be standing right off camera working, and he would be in the middle of doing a scene, like an emotional scene, and he would just slowly reach over and poke my belly. Like, it was just like, you know, just one of those guys. And then Tony Todd is an artist. Like, that guy, he believes in his craft, and he digs deep. And he's just a genuine person. Like, they're just, he says, like, you know, this is a guy who's worked with Michael Bay, you know, and he's like, it's like every set's the same. As long as there's a synergy, everything's going down. So, you know, they always, you know, sometimes you work with actors that aren't the bee's knees, but those two guys are just amazing. Like, I'll cast them again. Like, I'm all about, like, if we work with somebody who's great, cast them in something unexpected and real. I can't wait to cast Tony or Doug in some unexpected role that people don't usually see them in, right? And the same with, like, working with, like, Alan Ruck. I did a short film with Alan Ruck from, you know, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Another guy who's an amazing actor. It's amazing how actors get pigeonholed into these things. But these guys, this is their career, man. they want to do new things. So that's probably the coolest thing about working with actors like that is seeing like, oh, like Tony Todd could play a gangster. Tony Todd could play a father. You know, in the most unexpected of roles. Like, that's what's great about working with those types of people. And when you find out that they're kind human beings, that's always a nice thing.
Well, that's awesome to hear. I'm a big fan of both of those men, and I've heard nothing but great things, and it's awesome to hear that they're both just genuine, down-to-earth human beings.
Yeah, no, they really are, no. And Tony Todd, is a side note, he's, you know, being a big Candyman fan, he's also very gracious. Well, they're both gracious. Doug will do Hellboy and Pan's Labyrinth and still go do a short film. He did a buddy of mine's, Brian Hazing's short film in South Dakota a couple of years ago, and he just did it. You know, he didn't have to, but he did, because he likes helping out young people, and I think and Tony Todd's the same way. You know, these guys like to work, and they like to dig into fun characters, and it's always a beautiful thing. And I'm sure someday I'll work with some jerks, but that hasn't happened yet.
Well, Andrew, thank you so much for being on the Backlot 605 podcast. The new film, Tater Tot and Patton, will be screening in Sioux Falls at the Wells Fargo Cinedome March 9th.
Yeah, it'll be March 8th, 9th, and 10th at 7 p.m., but I'll be doing a Q&A March 9th. So I'll be there in person March 9th, but we'll be showing that whole weekend. Is there any other way people can get involved with this project? Yeah, absolutely. We actually have a GoFundMe going on online. So we're a micro-budget movie. We're an independent film, and even though we have a great lead actress, Jessica Rothe from Happy Death Day in it, you know, we're still a small movie. So you know, we're looking for help with marketing costs and getting the movie out there and getting the word out there, and that takes money to do that, especially in the social media era. It's not just posting things, you know, it's like boosting those posts. So if people want to go to GoFundMe and look up Tater Tot and Patton, they can find us on there and donate. We would love some help. And just spread the word. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you once again for being on the show. I wish you the best of luck with the film, and I can't wait for everybody to see it. And most of us at the Backlot 605 crew will be there this March 9th weekend.
Introduce yourselves. And we're having an after party at Fernson afterwards, so please join us for that too. We can chat more movies.
Awesome. Well, we love our Fernson here on Backlot 605, so.
All right, this was a pleasure. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Andrew. Backlot 605 listeners, please go check out this film and help support independent film here in South Dakota. This is all, South Dakota-based film with a South Dakota writer-director, so please make sure you go check out this film and help support it. And as always, please check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and backlot605.com. And until next time, join us on the Backlot of South Dakota.